Y'all ever heard of a place called Troy? Now, I ain't talking about some dusty old town in Texas. I'm talking about a legendary city perched right on the edge of what we now call Turkey. For centuries, folks thought Troy was just a figment of some poet's imagination. But guess what? Turns out, it was hiding in plain sight all along. Archaeologists dug it up, revealing a city steeped in history and whispering tales of a war that shook the ancient world. Troy wasn't just about grand palaces and bustling markets. It was also a place where myths were made flesh and blood. Legends were born in its dusty streets, and tragedies unfolded beneath its sun-drenched skies. And none were more dramatic, more heart-wrenching than the tale of the Trojan War. So grab yourself a glass of sweet tea, sit back, and let me tell you all about the siege that brought a mighty empire to its knees.
Now, any good story needs a spark, a catalyst that sets the wheels in motion. And in the case of the Trojan War, that spark was a woman, Helen, the Queen of Sparta. They called her the face that launched 1,000 ships, and let me tell you, she was something else. Imagine, if you will, a woman so beautiful, so captivating, that men would cross oceans and wage wars just for a glimpse of her smile. But here's the thing about beauty. It can be a double-edged sword. And for Helen, it brought nothing but trouble. See, she was married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta. Enter Paris, the prince of Troy. And wouldn't you know it, he falls head over heels for Helen. When Paris sailed back to Troy with Helen by his side, he lit a fire that would consume 2 nations.
Now, the Trojan War wasn't just a squabble between mortals. Oh no, this was a full-blown cosmic drama with gods and goddesses meddling in human affairs like it was their favorite reality show. You see, the Greeks, they were big on their deities. They had a god for just about everything: love, war, wisdom, you name it. And these divine beings, they weren't content to just sit on Mount Olympus and watch the show. They had their favorites, their grudges, and they weren't afraid to throw a thunderbolt or two to get their way. On one side, you had Hera and Athena backing the Greeks. Then there was Aphrodite, rooting for the Trojans thanks to a little bribe from Paris. And let's not forget Zeus, the big cheese himself. With all these divine players pulling the strings, you can bet your bottom dollar things were about to get messy.
Now, before we go jumping into the thick of battle, let's take a step back and unravel the threads of this tangled web. Because the Trojan War wasn't just about a stolen queen. It was a story woven from love, betrayal, and prophecies that hung over the Aegean Sea like a shroud. Long before Paris set eyes on Helen, there was a prophecy. It foretold that the son of King Priam of Troy would be the downfall of his city. Priam, he loved his children more than a hound dog loves bacon. So he did what any sensible king would do. He shipped the newborn prince off to be abandoned on a mountaintop. But fate, she's a fickle mistress. The babe was rescued by a shepherd and grew up to be none other than Paris, the apple-loving Helen-stealing prince we all know and, well, you know. Meanwhile, over in Greece, Menelaus called on his brother Agamemnon, and together they rallied the Greek forces.
Now picture this: 1,000 ships, bristling with warriors and fueled by righteous anger, slicing through the wine-dark sea. The Greeks were coming, and they weren't there for a picnic. But even with the mightiest heroes of Greece on their side, breaching the walls of Troy was no walk in the park. Those Trojans, they knew a thing or two about defense. Their city walls were taller than a giraffe in a phone booth, and their warriors, led by the valiant Hector, Prince of Troy, were tougher than a $2 steak. The Greeks, they laid siege to Troy for 10 long years. 10 years of bloody battles, cunning strategies, and enough drama to make a soap opera writer blush. They fought on the beaches, they fought in the fields, and they even took their squabbles to the heavens, calling upon their divine patrons for a little help. But the Trojans, they held strong. Their walls, they refused to crumble.
Now, y'all know me, I love a good story, but even I gotta admit, 10 years of war, that's a long time to hold a grudge. And let's be honest, after a while, even the most epic battles can start to feel like a broken record. But here's the thing about the Trojan War. It wasn't just one big, long brawl. It was a tapestry woven from countless threads of individual stories. Tales of heroism and cowardice, of love found and lost, of friendships forged in the crucible of combat. For 10 years, these men lived, fought, and died alongside each other. They shared their rations, their fears, and their dreams of home. They witnessed acts of unimaginable bravery and unspeakable cruelty. And through it all, the war raged on, a relentless tide of destruction that threatened to consume everything in its path.
Now, after 10 years of fighting, the Greeks, they were plumb out of ideas. They'd thrown everything they had at Troy. But those walls, they still stood strong. Just when it seemed like the war would drag on till the end of time, a cunning plan began to take shape in the mind of Odysseus, the king of Ithaca. This Odysseus, he wasn't just another pretty face in a chariot. He was known for his sharp mind, his silver tongue, and his ability to hatch a plan so crazy, it might just work. And so the Greeks did something unexpected. They packed up their bags, struck their tents, and sailed away. Well, not quite. They left behind a little parting gift, a giant wooden horse towering over the Trojan Walls like a monument to their supposed defeat. Little did they know, the horse wasn't a gift, but a Trojan horse, if you will, filled to the brim with Greek warriors just itching to stretch their legs and raise a little hell.
Section 8. The Fall of Troy, a city reduced to ashes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, the Trojans, they partied like there was no tomorrow. They feasted, they danced, and they drank enough wine to float a battleship. They thought their troubles were over, but those celebrations, they were about to take a turn for the worse. Under the cover of darkness, while the city slept, the Greek warriors, they slipped out of the belly of the horse like a swarm of angry wasps. They opened the city gates, and the Greek army, which had secretly sailed back under the cover of night, stormed into Troy. What followed was a massacre. The Greeks, fueled by years of pent-up rage and a thirst for revenge, laid waste to the city. Buildings burned, screams echoed through the streets, and the once mighty city of Troy was reduced to a smoldering ruin. The Trojan War was over, but the scars it left on the hearts of men and the face of history would linger for generations to come.
As Section 9, Heroes and Villains, the Faces of War. Now every good story needs its heroes and villains, and the Trojan War had more than its fair share of both. On the Greek side, you had Achilles, the near-invincible warrior with a tragic flaw, his heel. Then there was Odysseus, the cunning strategist who finally brought Troy to its knees. And let's not forget the mighty Ajax, the warrior who went toe-to-toe with Hector himself. But the Trojans, they had their champions too. Hector, the noble prince who fought and died defending his city, was a legend in his own right. And his brother Paris, well, he may have started the whole mess, but even he had his moments of bravery. The Trojan War wasn't a simple tale of good versus evil. It was a clash of civilizations, a conflict driven by love, ambition, and the fickle whims of the gods.
Section 10. The legacy of Troy echoes through the ages. Now, the Trojan War might be ancient history, but its legacy, it's still felt today. Think about it, from literature to art, from movies to music, the echoes of Troy are everywhere. Homer's epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, they've been captivating readers for centuries, transporting them to a world of heroes, gods, and epic battles. But the legacy of Troy goes beyond just stories. It's a reminder of the destructive power of war, of the enduring strength of the human spirit, and the timeless allure of a good yarn. It's a tale that continues to fascinate, inspire, and caution us, reminding us that even the mightiest empires can crumble. And the choices we make, they have consequences that ripple through time. So the next time you hear the name Troy, remember, it's more than just a name on a map. It's a symbol of human drama, of love and loss, of triumph and tragedy. It's a story that's been told and retold for thousands of years. And it's a story that, in many ways, is still being written today.
Section 11. Keep the story alive, join the conversation. Well, folks, there you have it. The Trojan War, a tale as old as time itself. But the story doesn't end here. What are your thoughts on the heroes and villains of Troy? Did Helen deserve all the blame? Was the Trojan horse a stroke of genius or a dirty trick? Head on down to the comments section and let me know what you think. And hey, if you enjoyed this little history lesson, don't be shy about giving it a like and sharing it with your friends. Now, I know y'all are busy folks, but if you're feeling extra generous, you can always buy me a coffee. It helps keep the creative juices flowing and the stories coming. And don't forget to check out the links down below for some awesome deals on ancient history books, documentaries, and more. Until next time, keep exploring the cosmos, folks.